Hello everyone and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host Prince Magnum. Welcome once again to do-it-yourself budget hot rodding and the mini-series known as The Icon, The Legend, The Record. To understand what is actually happening in this mini-series, we're going to have to travel back to the year 1998 and kind of lead you all the way up until today. And in hopes of doing this, you'll understand what it is that we're trying to do right here on the Prince Magnum channel. The first thing that should be noted, like every hot rodder in the late 90s, besides some of us that were out street racing, a lot of us went out and would set top speed records. Well, I myself am no exception to this rule. This particular stretch of road is where I set a record. The record in question was set none other than by my 1978 Camaro Berlinetta, better known as Blue Thunder, which you'll get a look at here in just a moment. The original record was then broke in 2005, but let's quickly talk about Blue Thunder. Blue Thunder, this is actually a pretty close representation of Blue Thunder. Originally when we got her, she had a 305 that had a rod thrown right through the oil pan. My dad and I dropped a 400 small block in it, bolted right up to the 350 turbo automatic. Had to finagle the exhaust into place because 305's exhaust is a little bit different than the 400 exhaust manifolds, which the 400 exhaust manifolds fits on the 350, everything but with a 305 configuration before the year of 1985. Blue Thunder had a 400 small block, 350 turbo automatic, 308 single track rear end, 10-inch wide tires on the back with deep dish aluminum slots or aluminum magsters all the way around, 15-inch tires and wheels. Had a Z28 competition hood scoop for the 60s or first generation Camaro / Firebird. And of course it was a cowl induction. Blue Thunder, this is as close of a representation as I can get. Blue Thunder did not have T-tops, and she didn't have the fender spoilers nor the flares in front of the back, the back wheels. And even the pinstriping was done a little bit different. It was a line pinstriping that was done around the door handle and door lock, and it was just put in a couple of various places, kind of like that. And it was just there to kind of break up that powder blue that was going on her body. But pretty much this is as close of a representation as I could actually get. My dad and I spent actually we spent a good part of the spring putting her together, and I took Blue Thunder over with a buddy of mine and we set the record, and it was again 50 miles an hour from one end to the other. Now, to a lot of people that doesn't sound like it's super fast, but remember, at each end it's you've got these two really sharp corners, one at each end, and you come around, you have to really get your speed up when you get around, so you really got to push your vehicle, and you still got to leave yourself enough room to shut down when you get to the other end. So it may not sound like on such a stretch that it's really fast, but yeah, it is, considering that at each end you have really sharp corners. There was an attempt by someone after I set the original record in 1998. It was shortly after I set the record. He attempted to break my record. He ended up wrecking his dad's brand new truck. But however, because of the fact that he didn't pay in mind one of the rules, it wouldn't have mattered if he beat it or not. You're supposed to have someone with you to verify it. So because this guy wrecked, it wouldn't have mattered anyways, because in the old rules you had to have someone to verify it. But today, with cameras being everywhere, that rule can kind of go out the window. And you'll understand that as the video series progresses. Now, the next vehicle that helped me set the record or break that my original record was none other than this particular car right here, my 1975 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale, known as Old Gold. When I got Old Gold, I actually had bought Old Gold from my grandmother, and it came factory with a Chevrolet 350. One of the very first years they started doing that. Uh, when I got it, it was pretty much stock, but by the time I went to go use this car to break the record, she wasn't exactly stock. Had a performance dual exhaust system on it. The 350 turbo automatic had a B&M shift improvement kit. The gears were actually much higher in this car. If I remember correctly, they were 273s, maybe even higher than that. But they were extremely high, and it was still a single track rear end. 15-inch tires and wheels all the way around Old Gold. She also rolled on, believe it or not, American Racing Wheels custom version of the Chevrolet Rally wheels from the 60s. Very commonplace on your Super Sport packages. They were definitely an option, and of course it was an option for Corvette. So there was a lot of money tied up in this car, even right down in the suspension. I believe I even had ceramic racing brakes on the front. She was just an awesome car, and we went back with my buddy, and I went and set the record even higher, ironically enough, with Old Gold, and the record is actually now 55 from one end to the other. Now again, it doesn't sound like it's that fast, but when you when you look at the fact that, how short the stretch is with two sharp corners, yeah, that's plenty fast enough. Because remember the rules. You have to have somebody with you to verify it. You have to, and you can't wreck. So you have to remember, you have to leave yourself enough room to actually be able to shut down. So there's the history behind it. Now, let's cut away and talk briefly about, if you will, let's talk about what it's going to take whenever I go down this section of road, what it's actually going to take to not wreck. The first thing that we should note as we get ready to kind of, take you all down this section of road that I still hold this record on. Number one, and most importantly, for the most part, this road has not changed all that much since 1998. Thankfully, it hasn't, because back in those days, it was not uncommon if I didn't have a whole lot of exciting stuff going on. Just wanted to blow off some steam, I would come over here and would just run this road. It was a lot of fun, so that's how the record really came about. So even today, I could probably do this run in my sleep. That being said, the way that we just came is not the best way to do it. Because if you're not careful, there's a horrible ditch, some backyards, and houses. So this is not the best way to go. Because if you do make that mistake, you don't get your car stopped in time, you hit the dirt, you're off in that ditch, and if you go through that, survive the ditch, you could still hit someone's house. So that's definitely not the way to go. The way that you see here, this is the best way to do it. We'll come out of the staging area, and as it was back then, I'll bring the project car up to the end of this road, hang a left, and the objective is when I get to that first sharp corner, I need to come around it at the best possible speed. The best possible speed is usually between 20 and 25 miles per hour. Then the next thing I have to do, without the back tires breaking traction, because if you break traction, you'll lose speed, I have to push said project vehicle as fast and as hard as I can to the end of the road. And if you see that particular yellow sign, that's where you're trying to put the brakes on. Now, if all goes well, I'll hit a top speed of 60 to 65 miles per hour, but I have to be able to slow down to get around this corner without going off into that ravine area. It's just as dangerous to do it that way, actually more so to the individual making the run, but the reason why you do that is because there's no houses to hit. So it's just kind of, if I'm going to do something dangerous, I really don't want to include other people in this attempt. So the last thing we want to do is to take that risk of going off into that, going off into someone's backyard and hitting their house. To me, this is the better solution, taking it at this particular speed, this particular run, and it should be no problem. So, again, the record is 55 miles an hour from one end to the other without wrecking, and the objective is you've got to leave yourself enough room for shutdown, because if you don't leave yourself any room for shutdown, it's going to be a bad day. The record won't count even if I beat it. So it's not only about speed, it's about control. So remember that, folks. We're going to go ahead and cut away. We're going to kind of wrap this up in the last section, and I'll hopefully have this video out before you know it. By now, some of you are asking the question, Prince Magnum, why are you going to make this run? Why are you going to act like you're a teenager or in your mid-20s all over again? And the answer is so simple. I couldn't say it any other way. The first reason is because the Prince Magnum channel is affiliated with Extra Life. And all the proceeds from Extra Life go directly to the Children's Miracle Network. Because of this, those kids face death every day. And I'm hoping that by doing this run, you all will be inspired to open up your wallets and donate to the Children's Miracle Network. Those kids face death every day, and I couldn't imagine what their parents are going through. I really couldn't imagine at all, and I hope I never have to. That being said, again, if this inspires any of you to open up your wallets, I think I can face danger for a couple hours out of one whole day. The other reason, and this is probably just as sad as what those kids face, recently a lot of my old classmates from back in the day have passed away here in 2019 as I'm doing this video. That being said, a lot of us that are still left alive, whether it's a few years before my graduating class or a few years after my graduating class, a lot of us are starting to really feel our age, and we shouldn't. As for me, I'm getting ready to turn 40 as I'm making this video up. And as I'm getting ready to turn 40, when I started hearing this, even I started feeling my age pretty quickly. Well, the truth of it is that I and several of my other classmates from the time I graduated high school were not that old, okay? Some of us are getting ready to be we're getting ready to turn into grandparents, or we already have, but we're not that old. So we got a lot of life to live. And I'm hoping that by doing something that I would have done when I was younger will inspire my old classmates to get out there and live life to its fullest. That yes, we have gotten older, but we got a lot of life to live. So I'm hoping that by doing this, they'll get out there and do the same thing and live life to the fullest. Because at day's end, it's not about how many breaths you take in life. It's about how many you take away, if you know what I mean. And that's where this all boils down to. Number one, hoping to inspire so many people to donate to the Children's Miracle Network. And the other is to remind all of you to live each day to the fullest, because at day's end, that's what we have, is just today. That brings us to the end of this video, and I hope all of you are inspired to live life to the fullest. As always, be sure to check out my partner, Mr. Sketch Scars himself, Jammin' John, on Sketch Squad TV. He is the pioneer of 4G LTE mobile live streaming. Be sure to check out the Patreon account, patreon.com/Prince Magnum, and donate if you can. Also, be sure to check out Team Maverick through the Extra Life organization and donate to the Children's Miracle Network. As always, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. Remember, folks, idle hands and a creative mind go together like oil and water. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet. Do something special for them today. And as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
Man. Wow, man, freaked out.